Hello everybody. Is Friar Lawrence supposed to be admired or ridiculed? In this video we'll look at both interpretations. Friar Lawrence is a Catholic priest. We know this firstly from the setting of the play. In Shakespeare's day, Verona was part of the Catholic Venetian Republic. Today, Verona is part of Italy, which is still a Catholic country. We also see uniquely Catholic practices in the play. For example, when Juliet says she will go to the friar to make confession and to be absolved in Act 3, Scene 5. Confession and absolution are elements of the Catholic faith. England had separated from the Roman Catholic Church under Henry VIII in 1534, and Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet in 1597 when tensions between Protestants and Catholics were deep. This is important because whatever Shakespeare says about Friar Lawrence can also be interpreted as a message about Catholicism. It's always interesting to look at the first time we meet a character. Shakespeare introduces Friar Lawrence in Act 2, Scene 3. He's giving a long speech about the power of plants when Romeo arrives. We'll circle back to the significance of the plant speech in a second, but the conversation between the two characters establishes the friar as Romeo's confidant. When Friar Lawrence sees Romeo has been out all night, he asks, "Wast thou with Rosaline?" Clearly the friar knows all about Romeo's feelings for Rosaline, which is more than can be said for Lord and Lady Montague, Romeo's parents, who had no idea why Romeo was so sad in the play's opening scene. In many ways, Friar Lawrence is a surrogate parent for Romeo, taking on much the same role as nurse with Juliet. He knows what's happening in Romeo's life. He's also an astute judge of Romeo's character, correctly assessing that Romeo didn't love Rosaline, but instead was doting on her. So two crucial things are established here. Friar Lawrence knows what's going on in Romeo's life, and he also knows what Romeo is like as a person. Friar Lawrence is spoken of highly by other characters. Juliet calls him a holy man in Act 4, Scene 3, as does the prince in Act 5, Scene 3. But here's where it gets difficult. The big question with Friar Lawrence is, are his plans good plans? He decides to marry Romeo and Juliet because he believes this alliance may so happy prove to turn your household's rancour to pure love. Is this good advice? Perhaps he knows Romeo so well that he can see this love is real, or perhaps he knows Romeo so well that he should question whether Romeo is just lusting after Juliet in the same way he did with Rosaline. It's also worth considering the friar's other plans. When Juliet is distraught about marrying Paris in Act 4, Scene 1, the friar tells her, "I do spy a kind of hope which craves as desperate an execution." We all know what this plan is, to drink the potion, fake her death, hide in the tomb and run away with Romeo to Mantua. Now in one sense there's no point in questioning the validity of this plan. Yes, Friar Lawrence could have perhaps suggested Juliet run off immediately to Mantua to be with Romeo, but this is a tragedy, and we know that Romeo and Juliet are fated to die. Friar Lawrence's bizarre plan is therefore one of the vehicles Shakespeare's using to make it happen. But at the very least we can question whether we as an audience are supposed to view him with the same respect afforded to him by Juliet, Romeo and the prince. Is he a good person trying to help, or a bumbling idiot? Well, this brings us back to his opening speech about the power of plants. The friar explains how within the infant rind of this small flower, poison hath residence and medicine power. In other words, some plants have the capacity for both good and evil depending on how they are used. This speech foreshadows the apothecary's use of poison later in the play, but it can also be seen as a significant part of the friar's character. Jonathan Marks writes, "Friar Lawrence reads virtue and vice, grace and rebellion into nature, but he thinks that the virtue or vice of things depends on their right or wrong use, and that he is capable of distinguishing between right and wrong use, and even of transforming vice into virtue through his knowledge. Virtue and vice, grace and rebellion are objects to be manipulated by the knower of nature. The friar's activities suggest that he thinks he can use human beings just as he uses herbs. He attempts to use Romeo and Juliet to make peace between the Montagues and Capulets, concerning himself more with this objective than the souls of the young lovers." And that's from Fools for Love, Shakespeare's qualified defence of Romeo and Juliet in the Ignatius Critical Edition of Romeo and Juliet 2011, and that quotation is used with permission from Jonathan Marks, so thank you for that. We therefore see a friar who mistakenly thinks his skill with plants can be applied to the world of humans. The results of his thinking are, of course, tragic. The friar ends the play by adopting the chorus role previously taken by Benvolio, and you can see my Benvolio character analysis for more on that. A chorus was often used in drama to provide a summary of important background information. In Act 5, Scene 3, Friar Lawrence gives a long summary of everything that's happened with Romeo and Juliet, ending with, "If aught in this miscarry by my fault, let my old life be sacrificed." However, the prince doesn't want to take Friar Lawrence's life, echoing Juliet's words with, "We still have known thee for a holy man," and this seems to be enough of a reason to let Friar Lawrence off the hook. In terms of key quotations, we might pick a moment which shows us the respect that characters have for him. Holy man is a good one because it's used by both Juliet and the prince. Then we might add to that a quotation which shows us the friar's misguided idea that he can control human lives like he controls plants. "Virtue itself turns vice" is a concise example. If you found this video useful, please do subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up. Everything I go through in this video comes from the 3rd edition of Mr. Bruff's Guide to Romeo and Juliet, which is available through following the links in the description.